Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the RecPoker Podcast. When you hear that tune, you get to have the best part of your week where you get to sit and talk poker with some of your best friends. My name is Joe Kulas. I am sitting in for the very esteemed Mr. Jim Reed, who decided that he wanted to go out for a nice dinner with his wife on their anniversary. My understanding is they went to Monsieur Beret de Cochet Wetchele, which I understand is, if you translate the French, is Mr. Peanut Butter and Jelly. So I think they're going to have a good time going out celebrating their anniversary. But he couldn't make it today, and we're very happy that he took the time off. So you have to put up with me with the mic throughout the day. I do want to send a shout out to my fellow RECing Crew members, John Somsky and Lorianne Persinger, who are here and going to help me do this wonderful interview with Mr. Jason Su. I also want to send a shout out to the Running Aces Hotel and Casino, who help support us week in and week out. We couldn't do that without them, and we're very happy that they help us spread the message of Rec Poker. So we're going to jump right in this week because I can't do Jim's shtick very well. I have my own shtick, but it's not nearly as good. But I thought that we would just move on through those formalities and get it right into the interview because I have a lot of questions. Our guest today is Mr. Jason Su, and I'm going to let him introduce himself because actually the one thing I couldn't find online is a lot of details about his background beyond the kind of work that he's doing. So can I call you Jason?
Yeah,
Jason?
that is perfectly acceptable.
So the first thing, I did read both of your books today, this afternoon, which are very good. I recommend them to people interested. But the thing I couldn't find is much background beyond what you're doing for a living now as a poker coach of psychological concepts, and also a former poker player and a tennis player. And that's all I really could find. So if somebody were to ask, well, beyond those three things, who is Jason Su? What would you say?
Oh man. All right, we're going hard right away. Okay. So those are the three things that have captured my attention as an adult from the age 14, 15, just getting really into the competitive tennis and then straight into poker, playing at age 18 all the way through almost 40 and then now coaching for many years now, approaching my mid 40s. And so, yeah, that's, the things that I've really just given my all to in my life. So yeah, beyond that, just a person. Just a person, just a person trying to be happy in this world and trying to find happiness and meaning in my life. That's always been something that I've always concerned myself with to a great degree. And then, yeah, beyond that, I love all the things that lots of people love. If you look behind me, I'm a big fan of sports. I grew up in Houston, so all the teams from there. Went to the University of Texas, so all the teams from there. And really though, like poker has been the staple of my adult life. That has been the central theme in there, which continues to this day. And I still love being a part of the world very much.
Okay. So there's a lot of information about your poker journey, particularly in your books. But one of the questions I had is, how do you see yourself in the concept of the poker sphere, where you fit into the poker mindset coaching sphere? But I think that and you can expound on this, but you would reject the idea that you're a mindset coach. Can you tell us a little bit about your role in that sphere?
I try to be somebody who offers an alternative to things that are not working. So even when I was playing poker, I was one of the first people to sign up for mindset coaching, and the whole part about no matter what's happening, let's just try to take the big picture view. Let's just try to have a good process, make sure you study a lot, play a lot. And if things don't go your way, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. And I was all about it, and that had really disastrous results for me personally as a poker player. It made me really not enjoy the experience at all, because I could no longer relate to my emotions in a way where I was able to just be with them and accept them. Instead, everything had to be explained as a reason to not feel what I was feeling. And so it didn't work for me. And that was my starting point when, after I took a good long break from poker from that, came back having learned a lot of things around how to actually engage with the feelings, be present with them, and decided, if I'm going to play poker again, this is how I'm going to do it. And from that point on, just the best run of poker ever for me, not just in terms of making it to the highest stakes, but also having more fun than ever and playing essentially my A game 90+% of the time for the last 7 years that I played poker. So what I see now is lots of people doing this thing where it's like, okay, I work hard, I study a lot, I play a lot, I surround myself with great poker people, and I eat well, and I focus on sleep, and I do all the things the right way, but I still always feel like there's something missing, and I still always feel like I'm a little bit unhappy and unsatisfied with the experience. So most people, when that's the case, they tend to just double down and assume that they haven't tried hard enough and done a good enough job of all of the things. And I guess my role, the way I see it, is to just say, hey, maybe your your effort's not the problem. You're playing the wrong game. And so if you want to keep doing the thing that's not working and keep doing it harder, by all means, that's your choice. But hey, maybe there's this other way of doing it that wouldn't require you to strain and stress so hard, and would actually allow you to feel good inside yourself. So I kind of just yell about that as much as possible all day, every day, into every channel that exists. And then whoever wants to come hang out with me, I'm always happy to share what I know.
Well, that's very interesting, because when I started here with the RECing Crew, people would often ask me about mindset coaching and things like that. And one of the things I find hardest to convince people is the idea that emotions can't be controlled. That I spend a lot of time as a psychologist telling people, you need to experience your emotions, you need to accept that they're going to happen, and that you don't want to have your emotions control your own behavior. And everything I saw in the literature, I'm sorry, the poker sphere was shut it off, become a sociopath, and then you'll win at poker. And I couldn't accept that was tolerable. I mean, was that your experience of that when you went into mindset coaching? Or
that was essentially what was taught to me 15 plus years ago, and that was a disaster. And then when I first wrote Poker with Presence, the first book I wrote, and put it out, I was like, I don't know if anybody's even gonna want to read this, because it goes against what everybody says. But as it turns out, plenty of people have reached out. So many people over the years have reached out and said, hey, I'm so happy you wrote this, because it explains so many things that I've inside known was true, but I didn't quite have the words for it. I just felt like something was wrong, but I couldn't put words on it. You put the words on it. So I'm happy to keep going.
So in your books, you mentioned two mentors that you have, and they have the institute. I believe it's in Colorado, and I'm sorry I don't have their names sitting in front of me. But there is a counseling psychologist, I believe, and then a movement psychologist. Can you speak to who your mentors were in that role?
Yeah, Gay and Katie Hendricks. They're actually in California.
California. I apologize.
Yeah, they run the Hendricks Institute, and Gay has written many best-selling books. I think the one that people know the most would be called like The Big Leap. I think he sold like millions of copies of that. It's all about being with your feelings. And
your book will sell that many copies very soon.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I'm open to it. But yeah, and then Katie has written books as well, and she's more focused on relationships, and also she's the person who I spent the most time with, working closely for many years. And yeah, they really taught me how to get out of my head and how to stop overthinking everything, and instead actually just have an emotional experience, which for me, as a guy who was brought up with zero mention of any of that stuff, was like a real groundbreaking experience in life. And it took some time for sure to get out of this mindset of whatever I'm feeling, just make it go away. But once I learned how to do it, life changed really fast. And it was only then where all the good stuff started happening. magically I met my wife. Like as soon as I got this down, magically, it was the first good relationship I had. Magically, my poker game went to new heights. And it was like all as soon as I had put the time in and really felt like, okay, I'm really doing it. I'm committed to this. Everything good started.
Okay. So you also lean a lot in your book in terms of talking about intuition as a means of how you make decisions. And one of the questions I have is how do you develop that intuition? What comes into that, or do you see it instead as something that simply exists and the universe moves you in the directions you're supposed to go?
It's kind of, for me, it's in between the two things you said. It's not something you have to develop because it's in you, because you're a human and we all have these instincts. One can just feel, something's off with this guy. I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong with this person, and then you'll get the confirmation later. But at the same time, it's not quite this thing where it's like the universe moves me to it. It's I have to actually make myself available to tap into it, sense it. And if I am here in my head trying to figure everything out and needing everything to be logically explained one step to the next, then I'm not available to have any sort of instincts become, and I'm not available to become aware of anything because I'm so busy looking to figure out the answer. So a lot of it just comes from trusting that if I prioritize being present with all the feelings as they come, then my best ideas come to me. Our best ideas never come when we sit down with a pad and paper and try and figure out the best idea. Nobody's ever gotten a great idea that way. It comes when you're not looking for it.
Okay. So what would you say then to when you look at Kahneman's work of slow versus fast series, where he would argue that the slow series actually is the sitting down and thinking about things and processing and moving it into this secondary store where things occur automatically and we don't have to think about them, which kind of fits to some degree with the model that you state, although you don't explicitly state it in your book.
Yeah, he's much smarter than me, and his book is on the shelf, but I haven't read it. And I'm not gonna. Yeah, but what I'll say is that do what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if that works, if it genuinely works for you to sit down and think, and then that's when you get all your best stuff. I don't know if that's what you were saying exactly, if I heard it right or.
So in your first book, you talk a lot about intuition, right? In Poker Presence, and you go at length, and then you have that last little section where you kind of remind people that, well, you can't just kind of show up and say you have to do the work. You have to do work of learning about poker, learning about statistics, learning about probability, and so on. And that's in a lot of ways almost kind of fits into Kahneman's model of how you have to generate this. The intuition doesn't come, it's an information processing idea, that the intuition comes from the reps that you put in when you're thinking, when the slow system is present, builds that fast system. And that fast system is what you use when you're playing. It's that intuition. It's like, oh, I know something isn't right, yeah, because you kind of overlearned it. And that totally. I thought that was interesting that it kind of flowed from those two.
Yeah, I'd say there's no conflict in models. I always tell everybody, yeah, you want to be great at poker, you got to learn. You got to learn a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And then from that point, what happens is when you actually go and sit down to play, you got to forget all of it and find a way to not try and make things look the way they looked when you were learning them. Mm-hmm. Everything you learn is a suggestion. And if you show up and play from that place and prioritize, okay, my job now is not to apply what I learned. My job now is to be here and feel everything as it comes and then see what happens. I think you're going to perform a lot better and apply everything you learned at a much higher level.
Okay. So I just want to step in. As people know, I can talk forever, and I'm very interested in this particular topic. But we always want to take any questions from the YouTube live streamers. That's what you're here for. At the end of the show, we are going to do our our food bank raffle at a later point. Please remember to put in food bank, because we think it's important to feed the hungry in the world while we play a game for fun and money. But other people don't have the money to play, and they could use it for food. So we really want to give some. Jason has generously agreed to donate one of his books to the winner today. We thank you for that. But do put your names in, and do ask questions if you have them. And obviously, the RECing Crew members should certainly ask questions if they have them as well, because I can talk, right? And we'll just keep talking. And
No, I didn't know that.
I know you. It's shocked.
I have a quick question, Jason. Well, I have a couple of, but the first and I guess the most simple one, when sitting here listening, what do you personally think was your biggest mental obstacle to overcome at the poker table? And if you can elaborate, how did you overcome that obstacle?
Ooh, let's see. If we were thinking about earlier on in my, actually the biggest obstacle by far definitely was once I decided that I thought I was good. So everything before then, amazing experience. And the moment I thought I was good, that opened up a whole can of worms around how I thought I needed to show up and present myself. What do I think a good player would do right now? And how is this going to look if I do this? Mm-hmm. And it all kind of just froze me up and took me out of that mode of just, okay, what am I seeing? What am I feeling? What feels like the right thing? And go for it. And then whatever happens, happens. So instead, I just got all up in my head around, how's this going to look and what are people going to think?
Kind of became too concerned about what other people thought, basically.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
And right. Who can't? Yeah. And so for me, the way out of that was not this thing where I could just say, okay, I'm just going to stop caring what other people think. You can't control that. You can't turn that off. If you care what other people think, or if you care about wanting to look cool or smart, you can't stop that just by saying that. You can't just announce it. I don't care. No, you still care. But what you got to do is, there's a certain emotion that comes with that caring, or that whatever the thing is that you want. And can you be with it? It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Can you be with it and really accept that it's there? Because if you can't, then you're always going to try and do these like mental gymnastics to pretend you don't care when you really do. And now you're just lying to yourself. And then if you're lying to yourself, you can't play well. So you also can't control the part where you think you're good. There's just these moments where you're like, hey, I think I'm pretty good. And you can't control that either. So there's all this stuff you can't control, but you can control what you do with the emotions that come with it. And I think that's the kind of the turning point in which path am I going to end up taking next.
Nice. Thank you.
Joe? So, I do want to, Joe Rafter, one of our YouTube posters, had wanted to point out that he did read Poker with Presence and found it to be very good. He also wanted to say thank you, because he reached out to you and you kindly emailed him with some good advice back. So he wanted that to be pointed out. Yeah. So I did want to, one of the ways that, so another question is, how do you deal with emotions, the emotion of fear when you're at the poker table, or how should our listeners listen to it, or I'm sorry, react to it?
Well, fear is a thing where, in the Joy of Poker, one of the big differences from the Joy of Poker and Poker with Presence is in the 5 years in between, I got a lot less interested in labeling feelings like fear, sadness, anger. Because I know what you mean, what you mean, we get the gist of it, but it's different for everybody. And what I wanted to do in the Joy of Poker was lay out kind of a new thing we can do with emotions, where we don't call it fear, and we get more clear about like, okay, what's the actual experience I'm having? My chest feels tight, my shoulders are tense, I'm sweaty, right? And my whole brain is foggy. So to me, that's a far better thing to acknowledge and recognize than to just say like, okay, I'm in fear right now. And because you give yourself these truths about this is the actual experience I'm having, that becomes a lot easier to be with than to just say, oh, I'm in fear. Because you say I'm in fear, you're kind of like trying to grab onto something that doesn't exist necessarily. It's a word that can mean a lot of different things to different people. But if you're like, okay, oh, chest tight, stomach fluttering, kind of shaky. Okay, cool. Is that so bad? Does this make me non-functional? Can I still feel like myself while this is happening? Can I accept that this is happening, or do I must need this to stop? Because if you tell somebody and it's like, okay, you're in fear, they're like, yeah, I need this to stop before I can play well. It's like, oh yeah, your chest is tight, your stomach hurts. Do you need this to go away to play well, or can you still see how you might be able to be okay? And so if you break it down into the actual components of what it is, I've found that people get a lot more able to just be with it.
So that's actually one of the main tenets of what's called third wave of cognitive behavioral therapy, is the concept of particularly people being able to identify what their emotional states are. You're a little different than some in that you don't care about the labels, but for some people, anger is a lot of different things, but sometimes anger is shame, and those things feel different. They present themselves differently. How would you say that people should go about? And you talk about this in the book, but what is that process that you have people go through in order to understand what they're experiencing?
What do you mean by understand what they're experiencing?
So you talk a lot about embodied cognition and embodied emotion, and becoming aware of those physical symptoms, particularly in your first book.
Okay, and then, but as far as the understanding, do we mean like why it's happening, or
maybe understanding is a bad word. More recognizing, experiencing, perceiving is probably the word that I'm looking for.
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen that helps a lot is if we start to look at maybe our decisions that we're least happy with, the ones that we regret the most. And instead of thinking about what happened and what did I do, see if we can have an awareness of like, okay, what was I experiencing in that moment and right before it? And I think if we look at that, then it starts to train us to be able to sense that that's happening earlier, like more like as it's happening instead of after. I think most people get too caught up in, if you make a bad play in poker that you don't like, you just break down like, well, this is why this was bad. Okay, I'm not going to do it again. But if you don't actually address, oh, what was I experiencing right before that, then you'll definitely do something similar the next time you feel that, because that was in my theory, my best guess is like that decision you made that was so out of character was your response to having this uncomfortable feeling, and instead of feeling it, you did this thing instead. And you apply it to making a bad play at poker, or eating the whole thing of ice cream, reaching for the cigarettes, whatever. Right. So if you can learn how to recognize, oh, usually right before I do this thing, I feel that, you might start to be more on the lookout for that, so that when you do recognize, oh, I'm feeling that, this is when I'm prone to do this, you're actually seeing two pathways instead of just inevitably doing one, if that makes sense.
So what you're saying is you're trying to operationalize for people to know, well, when I'm experiencing a particular emotion, by feeling it in terms of my fingers, or feeling it in terms of my back, and so on.
Yeah, it's like if you consistently have a certain thought in your head or a certain sensation right before you do something, then it would be a very good idea for you to be able to recognize it as it's happening. And so the first step of that is making the connection in your mind of like, oh yeah, quite often right when I feel this way, I do this thing that I don't like. Okay, that's a great thing to know.
Okay. And then the second step from there, if I understand, is that then you start to work in the construct of looking out. You talk about cycling, looking out to somebody else, and then cycling back internally. And How does that fit into the concept of presence for you? Is that specifically that you're creating presence there, or is the concept bigger for you?
To me, the concept of presence, I view it as being aware of what's happening around you and inside you together at the same time. So quite often people get really stuck in their thoughts and their inner experience and become completely oblivious to what's happening around them. Other people get so fixated on what's happening around them that they become completely oblivious and disconnected from their inner sensations that they're having. So yeah, in the first book, there is an exercise that allows you to kind of feel both. Actually, it's in both books, and so yeah, it's just a quick way to make sure that you're here for both. You're not just inside your inner experience. You're not just fixated on what's going on out there. You're here for both.
So a question that is along those same lines from the YouTubers is that comes from Joe Rafter, who says, "I struggle with maintaining focus when I'm playing poker online. I can't seem to stop looking at social media stuff and watching TV. Any suggestions?"
Yeah, oh man, that sounds fun though. What's the problem, right? Who doesn't like that stuff? Okay, so yeah, this is one of those things where a lot of people are going to say disable the blah blah blah, turn the phone off and put it in the other room, that type of deal. But really, it's a symptom of you have discomfort. This is the way that you're alleviating the discomfort. You have two choices. You can either lean into it and start giving attention to feeling it, being with it, or not. Or I would suggest, if you're still finding yourself scrolling the socials or watching TV and you don't like it, would you be all right having a good time anyways, or must you beat up on yourself and declare that you've done something wrong by doing these things? Quite often, a lot of this can be cured, and just by deciding that, you know what, I'm gonna have fun anyways, and now we have no problems. It's only a problem if you say it's a problem, but if you genuinely are content with the experience you're having, it's just not an actual problem.
Do you feel the same applies with live poker as well?
Yeah, like if somebody's getting distracted and using their phone a lot in live poker.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, yeah, totally. Like if you want, because there's a thing that people do where they'll say, I want to be focused, but I always invite you to finish the paragraph. I want to be focused for what? So that I can play better. Okay, great. For what? So that I can win money, so that I can feel good and have a good time and feel clear and focused and have a great time and win money. Cool. Would it be all right if you had all of that anyways, even if you're on the phone? Or do you need to have everything look a certain way in order for you to have a good experience? So the more that you need yourself to behave in a certain way to have the experience that you want, you make it like really loaded you make it just like it's like really big emotionally loaded thing, and then you start demanding perfection, and then if you're not perfect, you start beating up on yourself, and then that makes it even harder to do the thing. And so I always just want to make sure you don't need it to be perfect and look a certain way in order for you to have an experience you're satisfied with. And I think a lot of the culture in poker, especially from the best, most winning players, they're just so invested in this optimization, perfection of process. If you're a high performer, this is what it looks like type of deal. And I'm just not into that, because they're suffering greatly anytime that there's a breach to their perfect protocol, and they must have their sleep and they must eat exactly what they said they're going to eat, or else they are not allowed to feel good about themselves. But why are we doing this? This is insane.
You mean I don't have to look at all my macronutrients at a micro level and
I mean, look,
I'm
you can if you want, right? Like if it genuinely makes you happy, go for it. But and like, sure, it's good stuff to know. But when we don't do it exactly the way we pictured it, can we still be okay and still feel content and satisfied? That's a legitimate decision most people have not actually made. There right now, most people, almost everybody's in the no camp. If I don't do everything exactly how I wanted to do it, I'm not allowed to be happy with myself. This is a problem.
Is there a difference between being happy with oneself and making money?
I think there's a real correlation. I mean, the happier I've gotten with myself, the more money I've made, and that's been true in my entire life. I predict most people would say the same.
But there's an interesting little switch there. You said the happier you are with yourself, the more money you make, right?
Mhm.
Most people would say the opposite. The more money I make, that I'm going to be happy. And that's kind of a poker truism, right? Why it's more fun when what does Jim say? And I'm not throwing Jim under the bus, but what does he say at the beginning of every podcast is it's more fun when we win money. But your premise is really, well, that's true, but your premise really is the reverse. You'll make more money if you're happy. Yes. Is that fair?
Yeah. You'll make more money if you're happy. And yeah, when we win, we are happier than when we're not winning. Absolutely. Both can be true, right? So what my problem is just if I don't win, I am going to be miserable no matter what. I am not open at all to feeling satisfied, content in any way. That's where the problem lies.
So recreational players are not, getting out to try to grind, or the vast majority of them to grind it out. And I know that you don't like that term, and we're hoping that people don't grind, but how should they feel at the poker table? How should a day go for them? When they're playing a pretty punishing game, that even if you do everything right, you can still get a 4 flush and end up down a lot of money.
Yeah, it's the same advice I'd give to pros too, right? Do you understand that the winning of money symbolizes a certain way that you would like to feel? It's not just the winning of the money, because where most of my clients start with me is I've won a lot of money and I'm miserable. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, and they're just like, I did not sign up for this. I thought if I won all this money, I'd be happy. Fix me. Right. So that's where most of us start. So understand that the winning of the money is not the thing you really want in itself in isolation. There's a certain feeling that you're associating with it. Do you need to win in order to get that, or are you going to prioritize having that experience that you wish to have? So for most people, I always recommend is enjoying yourself and then trusting your gut going to be at the top of your list when you go out to play. This is pro or rec, it doesn't matter. If so, you're going to have a far better experience, far fewer regrets, probably play better. And with that, over time comes more money in general. And so you really can have it all. There is one kind of major price you have to pay, which is that you're going to be doing it in a different way from everybody else, and they're going to tell you that you're wrong and that you should do it their way instead. That's the cost. But I basically have 100% success rate these days doing it with people who have no interest in going back to the other way, because, hey, as long as you feel how you want to feel, then you didn't need to win. And now poker is enjoyable again, no matter whether you're winning or losing.
I really have to endorse the idea of doing something that everybody else says not to do and doing it anyway and being successful at it. I mean, it's the best feeling in the world. I mean, I don't know anything else that beats that.
Well, somebody told me once that if you want to be really successful, just look at what everybody else is doing and do the opposite, because almost everybody is not as successful as they desire, and almost nobody is living up to their potential, and almost nobody is completely content in their life. So just see what they're all doing and don't do that. It's worked pretty well. Yeah.
I have a question, since we're talking about success, kind of a segue into success. Who's the most successful poker player that you've coached, and was there anything specific that you helped him or her with?
How are we defining success? Money?
I guess money, because in this turn, I guess money, but like you said, too, happiness, because that would be a whole nother question as well. especially given, I don't know if you saw the thing a few weeks ago that Stephen Chidwick put out on social media, where he finally opened up about, even though as successful as he seemed on the outside, inside he was actually quite depressed and miserable, and always feeling he had to live up to what this image that people had of him. So I don't know if maybe you can kind of encompass that all into like one answer. Like you are correct. Success is different means different things to different people. So maybe monetary wise, and maybe if you got someone that was struggling mentally, and maybe you help them with that. And you don't have to name names if you don't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, it's so funny. There's like too many names, but
Well, maybe that's a good thing.
the thing is, I'm trying to remember who I've listed on my website and who did not want me to list on the website. So you can go on the website to see, all the, if you want to see names.
I saw Kevin. I did see Kevin Rubbish.
Yeah, Kevin's great guy.
And I saw Matt Berkey. I was going to say, I did see a few names on there.
Yeah, so if you go to the coaching page, you can see a list of people where they say nice things about me. What I'll say is that my coaching has evolved a lot in the last 5 years, ever since I wrote Poker with Presence. That's why I wrote the Joy of Poker, because I was like, it's changed so much. So what I see now is no difference between your ability to make all the money you want to make in poker and your ability to feel completely content and happy inside. They are one in the same game. And so these days there's very little of me going on with clients and breaking down, okay, like this is how we do it at the table. It's really just like, okay, let's understand how you respond under stress and pressure, period. Let's flesh out everywhere in your life where this comes up that you're not responding in ways that make you completely happy. And let's do this everywhere, so that when you're playing poker, it's not a big deal anymore, because this is just how you live. I don't want to work with people anymore who are just like, help me make more money, because that's just a small sliver of what all of life is. And if you want to make the money as fast as possible at poker, you've got to decide that everywhere in my life that I go, this is my highest priority, is to be present with my feelings as they come, and be completely honest with myself and be completely honest with other people, and create connection everywhere I go. And when I'm doing that at a high level in my relationships, at the grocery store, wherever I go, and I'm having a good time, and I'm learning how to have a good time no matter what happens around me, then when I'm at a big spot, final table, big pot in a cash game, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't have to like flip a switch on, because this is just what I do. And so now these are really the only people that I want to take on and work with, is people who are ready to make that leap. And it's been really great. Everything goes a lot faster when you get more repetitions, right? Same at the gym, everywhere else. So it's like life offers you substantially more repetitions for how you deal with discomfort than being at the poker table, no matter how much you play.
So one of the things that when I was reading your book, I was struck by, it's been something that's kind of stuck with me a long time, is that poker players tend to take the sports mantra of, I'm going to have a hype video and I'm going to, try to hype myself up before I go to play poker, which always seemed kind of weird to me, because you go in, you're going to play poker, and then you're going to sit and you're going to fold for 14 hours. And I've always thought about it more like a meditation, that you're kind of just moving through. But you use a lot of sports metaphors in terms of your books, which somewhat surprised me. How do you see the relationship between poker, which is not an athletic event except for sitting, and sports, which have much different requirements from a physical standpoint?
Yeah, of course, a lot of similarities in terms of how people view, because it's competitive, right? And a lot of it is, how do I get in the mind of my opponent and stay one step ahead? So a lot of similarities there, not so many similarities in physique and physical activity, right?
What are you saying about me? Was that a cut at me? Come on, man.
But very much, cool. but very much, stamina is a real similarity as well too. So what I'll say about my take on prep, again, just like everything else, do what works for you. Do you know how you want to feel coming into a session? Do you know what works best for you? In terms of my best sessions when I came in and I just crushed it all day for a long period of time, how was I feeling when that started? And then once you know that, let me experiment and play around with stuff to make that happen. So people ask me all the time, should I meditate? I'm like, I don't care. I do care if you feel how you want to feel when you start, though. And I do care that you actually pay attention to what helps you get into that place. And I do care if you pay attention to, oh yeah, this thing has worked really well to get me to that place, but it's not working now. And then you start to experiment with something else, because that's the only thing that matters is, do you feel how you want to feel? If so, it tends to go really well.
Do you still play?
I play when I can. It's not very much these days, I gotta be honest, but I got a little 2-year-old running around the house when I'm not working with the people, so I am far more interested in her than rectangles and circles currently. But the time is coming. You'll see me back someday. I will be the rec player, and I'm gonna have a really good time.
Will you teach your daughter to play when she gets older, and at what age will you introduce her to the rectangles and triangles?
I don't know. We shall see. Yeah, I will tell. She will know of my life things that I have done, and if she asks, I'm sure I will teach her some things. I don't know if there's parents yet who are, pushy about their kids getting good at poker at age 8, like there is with like tennis and baseball, but maybe there is. But that's not going to be me.
Other parents tend to denigrate that particular approach. My kids played poker at a very young age, and I got some looks sometimes.
That's funny. Yeah,
they turned out okay.
Yeah.
So where do you want to go from here? So one of the things you talk about is being present, but where do you see Jason Su in 5 years, in 10 years?
Yeah, I'm happy to be poker with presence, Joy Poker guy for as long as people want me to. There was a time a few years ago where I was like, am I just poker with presence guy? This is the thing. But I kind of just resolved that, and I'm very happy to do this as long as people want me around. I have such a good time working with people because I think, like I said, like it's not about the poker anymore. I'm just spending time with people who are really, really interested in learning things that I happen to know and be good at teaching. So as long as that's happening, I'm having a great time. I'm in. I do have a dream of someday being in the coach's box at the men's singles final at Wimbledon, because I was a tennis player, and so that was my jam. And having everybody see me and being like, who the hell is that guy? That's kind of a dream. We'll see if it happens, but I would love for that to happen, to be a part of something in the pro sports realm, because it just sounds like a lot of fun. But I've done work with all sorts of people in all sorts of fields. I've worked with some athletes. I've done stuff with CEOs and business founders and stuff on how they deal with their stuff. So it's like wherever people happen to hear about me and want to hang out with me, I'm happy to be there as long as I'm having fun.
You probably won't answer this question, but is there a particular group of people that are harder to train in terms of your approach than others?
British males, 100%, 100, not even close to any other demographic. British males.
I think you answered that question pretty fast. What was that?
I'm here to defy expectations and do the things that other people don't do. Right?
That's right.
Right?
You have to elaborate on that, of course.
Yeah.
You just were ready with that answer.
Absolutely. So by far, that's the demographic I found that is the most closed off to feeling their feelings, the most addicted to going into their head and trying to think their way through every situation. By far, the group of people who have the most difficulty having an uncomfortable conversation. The amount of times that I have talked with a British male who is interested in hiring me, and they said, okay, I'm going to do it. And then they just ghosted at that point, instead of just saying, hey, it's not the right fit, or, I'm not sure, or could I have a little more time? It's always just like, yes, I'm in. And then every time they trick me because I think something horrible happened to them. I'm such a sucker. Like I always think like, oh, I must have gotten into an accident, or it's like, oh, like, you must have a death in the family.
He's just not that into you.
We had such a pleasant conversation, and I don't care if people don't want to work with me. It's not a big deal at all, and I always make that explicit. It's like, hey, if this isn't a fit, no big deal. But it's like, yes, this is exactly what I need. I'm in, and then just like crickets, right? So I've fallen for it many times. So and then the ones that I have worked with, I have worked with them successfully and love the guys who I've done the work with. But also they were the slowest starters and just the most like upfront. Like, what do you mean? Like, you know, and so, but we got there. So, but yeah, by far, British males.
So you said at the beginning, so I'm going to point to this rather than just a cultural stereotype, but often Asians are
Yes.
thought to be a little bit.
We're bad too. Yeah, we're really bad too. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, white males not that much better, to be honest.
No.
Kind of across the board, we're not doing that.
The answer is everybody, right? The answer is everybody who like doesn't live in a forest that hasn't been like ruined. By
I'm
the
not
internet.
touching that.
Hey, we've offended everybody here.
Yeah.
We've brought in everybody.
Okay,
in
I'm
the
just
crowd,
gonna
so
leave
we're
that one
okay.
alone.
Yeah. Look. The answer is everybody in the modern world is really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we're all like nobody talks about this with their kids anymore, and that's a real problem.
I'll push back a little bit about that. I mean, I'm not going to say that necessarily nobody, because there are programs within the school systems. They actually have started to focus on emotional regulation, and they call it social emotional learning, and it gets a bad name and a bad rap. But a lot of times what they're doing beyond helping people to altruistically help other people is they will help the kids really kind of start to identify what their emotions are. So if you walk into a school and you see like a square that's got all these different colors in it, a lot of adults don't recognize it because it wasn't around when we were young. But that actually is something for people to be able to point, well, where are you on this block? So it's not just into these, I'm angry or I'm happy or I'm sad. And, to your point, it's fascinating. Like one of the groups that I see often are police officers. And police officers have a really hard time identifying any of the emotions that they're in. It's a warrior culture sort of thing. And you ask them, well, do you ever get depressed? And it's like, no, I'm never depressed. And it's like, well, everybody gets depressed sometimes. And you start to recognize it's not that they don't understand the concept of depression. They just think that means that they're suicidal. Yeah. And they're not unwilling to kind of connect to, I get sad some days more than others, and normal human interactions. And I think it's really, really important that we're teaching some kids younger.
I know it's happening more now, and I'm all for it. I love it. I don't know when it started, but it wasn't when I was a kid. So at my age and older, we definitely were not. It was not which one are you, is like get over it and
rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine.
Yeah, rub some dirt, and you're inconveniencing the grown-ups and blah blah blah, all that. So yeah, I'm happy there's a shift. I'm happy to be a part of it, however I can.
So I do want people, we're coming up on an hour. I want to make sure that we get all of the questions from the YouTube groups. Please put those questions in. I want to make sure that John or Lori has any other questions. Certainly ask them. I could talk to you for literally hours, and you'd be so tired. You'd be like, dude, come on. I've had enough.
I'm interjecting on occasion. It's like, no, I've been enjoyed listening. I think I was going to ask what your most interesting poker coaching story was. I don't know if you touched on that or not. Yeah.
As far as me coaching somebody else.
Yeah, either way, just hey, I leave it open for however you want to interpret.
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't think of one in general, but I'll just say my general philosophy in general, which makes it really fun, and I'm doing it right now, is 95% of the time I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth next, and I just open mouth and words come out, and quite often it's quite surprising to me as well. But those are the best things that happen, right? Because it's like, if we talk about poker, okay, I think the best plays people make, they would agree, is when they're just fully present and they didn't even know that they were about to do that, and then they just did it and it was amazing. And for me, it's the same thing. That's if I preach it, I got to do it. So I go on calls with people, and I no agenda, no need to make anything happen. I'm just here to, again, feel what I feel, open mouth. And if something comes out, it comes out, and I'm there to have a good time regardless. But yeah, it's so much fun to get to work with people and play in this way, and quite often stuff comes out, I'm like, I can't believe I just said that. but always it's well received. One of my guys called me the knife because sometimes I just say stuff and he's like, oh, that hurt, but it was true.
No filter.
No filter. I mean, recently I told one of my guys when we first started out that he was being a half-assed father, and that was like, this is the second call we had. I was like, oh, it looks to me like you're being a half-assed father, and he's like, ooh, that hurt. But then a week later he told me, yeah, that changed my life. Thank you. So we just open mouth and say what comes out, and I think that's just the best way to live.
Have you ever? I'm sorry, did you have something, Joe?
No, it's going to ask a question from YouTube, so go ahead and ask your fellow.
On that, where the half-assed father, is it quite common to come across, or have you ever come across someone that you really like, there is no way I can coach this person, or it's just not going to work, or were there more instances of half-assed fathers where you just knew it was going to hurt?
Well, there's a lot of half-assed fathers, but there's the ones that will listen to me tell them that, and those that ones. So now, before I ever coach anybody, we have a conversation to make sure, hey, like, this is how I do it. I'm going to say some stuff sometimes. If I think it's true, you're not going to like it sometimes, and it might hurt, but hey, that's what we're here to do, is to face the stuff that, is going to get in the way of living the life that we want. So if you're game for that, I'm game. A lot of people are not. Quite often the social media and the YouTube and the emails will just get rid of. I mean, people aren't going to make it all the way to that point of coming to have a conversation with me if they've seen my stuff and they're like, ooh, I don't like this guy, right? So we get rid of most of them pretty early in the process. Yeah.
So Brian Otterness is asking, have you ever thought about teaching tennis?
Like the actual strokes of tennis, or coaching on the emotional side? Yeah, I could feed tennis balls to kids and rally with them and help them a bit, but I don't think that would be the best use of my, and there's people way better at that than me, but yeah, that's the Wimbledon dream, right? Is I'd love to be a part of somebody's journey with relating to the game of tennis in a way that's far healthier and fuels them into higher performance rather than drains them and burns them out, so that they can feel great while they do all the hard work.
As you go through your dad journey, you're going to find that actually being good at something is not a prerequisite at all for coaching it. As I learned when after playing no soccer whatsoever, have coached 4 soccer teams.
Yeah. I'm going to coach everything. My kid's going to be so like embarrassed and annoyed that I'm not going to miss a minute of it. Yeah.
So the final question I'm going to ask is relating to your book, The Joy of Poker. Everybody should go out and buy it today. Let's see if we can get it to 1 million copies from, with RecPoker.
Yes, if everybody on this call buys, how many copies?
At least 250,000. So we can do it, people. We can do it. So The Joy of Poker is a name that you probably, or maybe you chose knowingly in terms of another book with a similar name. Do you know what book I'm talking about?
Joy of Cooking.
I was actually going to go with a different one.
No, not The Joy of Sex, because
I was going to ask, which is a better purchase, The Joy of Sex or The
Joy of Sex actually made me not want to use The Joy of Poker. Joy of Cooking is like legend. Look, I love cooking. Cooking is like one of my big passions in life, and my wife's got like her grandmother's original copy of The Joy of Cooking in our pantry, and
okay. So we'll go with Joy of Cooking versus The Joy of Poker.
Is actually,
I mean, to be fair, both books are about being present.
Yeah. There you go. Right,
Rob,
and having a good time.
That's right.
Yes. Rob hasn't said a damn word the whole thing, and that's what he comes with.
Yeah, haven't read Joy of Sex. Yeah, it's so funny because I was like, what's the name of the book going to be? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I was like, I'd written a lot of it. Almost all of it was done. It's like, I don't have a name. And then one day I woke up from a nap or sleep, and I was like, Joy of Poker, that sounds awesome. And in that moment, in my fog of being sleepy, I did not register that any of the other ones existed. I genuinely in that moment thought I had independently come upon this name. I was like, it's so good. And then 5 minutes later, I was like, I'm derivative.
It's better than the Joy Luck Club, which could really play for poker. Or
yeah, but I got over it because I just loved the name, and so I got over it. And I was, this is the name of the book. So that's how it happened.
Well, it's a great book. I really encourage everybody to take a look at it and look at Poker Presence, which was his first book, which was out in 2020. They're both good reads. I would take an afternoon and read it. I think it's time well spent.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is we have some local stuff. We do our food bake raffle. You're more than welcome to hang out if you want. We also just go over some results, but if you'd like to sign off, we really appreciate your time and hope that you'll come back sometime and spend some more time with us.
I appreciate it. It's time to pick up my kids, so I'm going to do that, but really enjoyed it. Thank you all.
All right, man. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, take care.
So the next thing that we can move on to is I actually am going to remember that John is going to provide the weekly results from the home game, and I am pledging with my hand in the air, I am not going to interrupt him at all.
Wow, that will be a first time ever. On September 3rd, 40 Hubert Sokolowski won the No Limit Hold'em event for the first time. And Elvita 11, Joe Kulas, maintains the Player of the Year points race.
Who's that guy? I don't know him.
I don't know. He keeps saying
you said you weren't going to interrupt.
This particular
pause.
Yeah.
He made it 12 seconds.
Oh.
Look, his comment just spoke to me. It spoke to me.
I'm going to say Hubie's name. Hubie. Okay, he said say his name. So, okay, Hubie. We said your name.
All right. Then Blair, on August 25th, Blair 10 won his first daily nightly event. PCS 2005, Jack LaRue got his second nightly victory for the year. K-Poker wannabe Ron Payton got his 11th nightly victory for the year. Jay Sudham, Jeff S. got his 7th nightly victory for the year. Larson's opening, George Borden got his 3rd nightly victory for the year. E. Anderson 85, Eric Anderson got his 10th nightly victory for the year. Then Jay Sudham, Jeff S. got his 8th nightly victory for the year. E. Anderson 85, Eric Anderson got his 11th nightly victory for the year. JB Twin Cities got her 4th nightly victory for the year, and Poker Geek MN John Somsky got his 5th nightly victory for the year. Evil Roy CA won David Westerveld got his 3rd daily mixed practice event. Hell Brown 73 won the international event for the 4th time this year. Bone Crusher 14, Marcel Dusick got his 6th international victory for the year, and Jay Schrader got his 1st international victory for the year. And then we have one Jack Flack. Brett got his first LPP victory, and Jay Schrader 77014 S Schrader got his first LPP victory for the year. So one Jack Flack and JS Raider, you can contact info at rec.poker for your free month at Learn Pro Poker. And this was longer because there were 2 weeks worth of results to reply to this week.
It's still an impressive number of things that you do, and then you post, and then you keep updates. I know Jim says it frequently, but really, man, you do yeoman's work putting that all together. Not like that lazy psyops guy who just does one thing a month, some months.
Well, as long as people keep playing and they enjoy it, that's worth it.
Okay. So I think the only thing left, if I am on my mark, is that we have the raffle, the food bank raffle. I'm just going to give a couple minutes.
2 things left.
2 things left. Oh, right. I'm sorry. The scoreboard, right?
Yeah. So we'll give people a couple minutes to get in the giveaway while we show the scoreboard. We have our August numbers. We surpassed our July numbers. We had $103,000 in cashes from our premium members, 91 final tables. 39 podiums and 20 wins, bringing us to a total of $825,000. All you religious people don't pay attention to the number of final tables for the year. But we're at 381 podiums, 124 wins, and we are less than 2 months from hitting 1 million cashes. So absolutely crushing right now.
Thank you for pointing that out. I was getting ready to say we need one more final table on there.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Lorianne, come on. If you would have gotten one final table in August,
isn't that Book of Revelations? A woman from Las Vegas will not final table.
Final table, damn it! don't slow play flop trip tens.
That's right. So I'm looking back at the number of anybody else. Put your name in quickly if you want to be in the food bank raffle. Right now we have 3 people: Brian Otterness, Michael Savage, and Joe Rafter. Anybody else? We'll go with the 3 then. And do you want to put in? I'll put in 20 if it lands on me for the food bank.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, we've got the food bank. We've got the food bank in there. So
all right.
Food bank will be 20, and then any subsequent food banks we'll just keep throwing on Jim. Maybe we'll just hit it like 6 times in a row. It'd be great.
He went to that fancy restaurant. I don't know if he's going to have any cash left though.
I mean, he can sell feed pics. We'll figure it out. All right, here we go.
Feed pics. Rob, you and I should not do a podcast. Just be
all Freud.
Hey, Joe.
Right, Joe.
Good job.
All right. Nice, Joe. Congrats, Joe.
The well-named Joe Rafter, I would say. So I just want to thank everybody for coming today. I know that Jim wasn't here. He'll be back hopefully next week. Oh, I do want to point out that we are next week begins when we start this live presentation at 9:00 Eastern. The only time zone that actually exists is the Eastern time zone, and it's 9:00. So don't.
Really? Okay.
Y'all just pretending that there's like time before because you don't want to get up early or something. But 9:00 Eastern, 8:00 Central, 7 and 6, and so on. It'll still be the same presentation. We're just doing it a little bit later. Although we will do every other week. One of the weeks will be the chats edition, and then another week of the forums. I want to thank Rob, our invisible producer, Lorianne, John, and everybody that came. I certainly want to again thank Jason Sue for being a great guest, and I look forward to talking and seeing everybody within a week. Take care.
Go Aces! Going for the 15th straight win. Do it. Peace.
This is what I'm supposed to do. Something like this.